Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. This past week, I got a chance to spend some quality time with the Grado RS2e. Now, the RS2e is one of the classic headphones from Grado and is beloved by Grado fans. So what makes these headphones so good, and are they right for you? Let's go back in time, I'll share with you my impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. Alright, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I have with me the Grado RS2e headphones. Now I've listened to these headphones before, but yeah, today I've never really taken a full analysis of the headphones, so I'm excited to give them a listen today and kind of take a closer look at what's going on. But anyway, I would do an unboxing for you, but this box that I have is kind of just a demo model, so there's just the headphones in there, but really what else you'll get is a 3.5mm to 6.35mm adapter for these if you want to use it with the quarter inch output of something. And then this is kind of the general shape and size of the box, but this is an older version. This is an older box, so the other ones are like white with orange on there. And then inside as well, there's like a little bit of an information card thing about the family that owns Grado, about the Grado company and brand. The newer one looks a little bit different than this one, but just kind of to give you a general idea of what you'd get when you buy a pair of Grados. But anyway, let's take a closer look at the headphones themselves. Aren't they pretty? So looking at these Grado headphones, they're so good looking. They kind of have this like very retro look to them. You'll see that the ear cups here are made of wood. They're mahogany. You've got some etching that's like kind of etched into the actual ear cup themselves here. And I love the look of these because it's kind of gives you this feeling of like a luxurious simplicity. Because it really is super simple. It's wood, it's leather on the headband. The ear cups are just like foam. They're not even coated in anything. There's just like an ultra simplicity to these that make it, I don't know, it's done in such a way that it gives it an old school feel, but also seems really high quality at the same time. Now, holding these in the hands, they're extremely lightweight. I mean, you can kind of tell from the frame of the body, it's very thin. And as a result of that, you know, this kind of thinness and lightness is great because it makes it just like really easy to handle them. But it also makes me wonder about fragility at all, like if there are any issues with that. But that said, it's like all the materials are high quality materials. There's also this kind of like metal grill here. You'll see that kind of protects the drivers. You can actually see the driver through that grill, which I think is always kind of cool. But let's see how this feels. As for the headband, it's decently flexible. I think it's going to work for a number of different ear shapes, head shapes, and sizes. But putting these on my head, let's see. It's so lightweight, it's like hard to say. It's hard for these to like be seen as anything really but comfortable. But at the same time, there's not a really strong clamping force, but my ears do touch the ear cup a little bit. You'll see that the ear pads kind of are a little bit shallow, but they leave all the space here for the actual ear to sit, and my ear happens to touch this. So if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, these might not be the right, you know, might not be the right brand of headphone for you, but it's so lightweight that it's like, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. Like, I think I would be able to handle this for a longer listening session. Now, there's a little bit of padding on the underside of the headband, not much. It's really pretty thin, but you can see that there's a little bit there. And it doesn't really contribute too much to the comfort, but it does to the quality. I mean, you know, it's like, it doesn't give you a whole lot of padding, but really, like, honestly, because of how lightweight they are, I mean, you'll see that my hair kind of like sticks up a little bit, and really this headband is like touching my head so lightly because it's really just being held up by my hair. So I don't know if that's helpful or not for you as a listener, but for me, that's kind of my experience with it. Now, as for the cables, I tend to sort of like be a little turned off by the Grado cables in general, just because they're a little bit bulky and they're not detachable from the ear cup. They're kind of like soldered right into there. But that said, these cables are actually pretty manageable. They're not too long. They're really kind of like a really good length. They wrap up very easily. They're just a little bit thicker than you might get from a different headphone. But at the same time, this connector feels extremely well made, very, very durable, like it's not gonna break on you, and that kind of makes the thickness of this cable then feel better to me, because it's like, oh, it's thick for a reason, it's really blocking out as much as it can, and like these connectors are hefty. They're hefty cables. Now the cable inside here is the E-Series 8 conductor cable. It's made of UPLC oxygen-free copper, and yeah, this cable is used for a lot of Grado headphones, so you know, it ought to be a good one if it's sort of like survived the test of time with this company. So I am excited to give them a listen, but before I do, let's take a closer look at the drivers. These are 44mm dynamic drivers, and they kind of work together with an advanced dampening system, according to Grado, to sort of like help avoid resonances and just kind of give you the best sound quality possible. But anyway, that's kind of all the information I have on the actual drivers themselves. I'm very excited to just give these a listen. Let's do it. Alright, I was just listening to the song Lazarus by David Bowie, and wow, I mean, the kick drum sounds super punchy and full, and there's just a lot of spaciousness around the low end in general, and it kind of makes it so that in the song, when the bass drum or the bass guitar comes in, the kick drum and the bass can really exist side by side, and they just have this nice feeling of groove because of the kind of, I don't know, there's like this punchy quickness to both of them that really lets them move with the groove of the song. Yeah, so for the mid-range, I was just listening to the song When It Was Wrong by the California Honey Drops, and something I absolutely love about these headphones with this song is that it gives this added sense of presence to the horns, the vocal, the drums, even the electric guitar at times, which really just gives it this added detail that's not quite usually audible. Because this song is mixed in sort of a dark, mid-rangey kind of way, and so yeah, adding the sort of presence involved with these headphones with that song just sounds really great and gives you extra detail that you might not have heard before. And then additionally, I just thought I was really impressed by the level of separation between the electric guitars and the organs, because they kind of occupy the same frequencies, which makes them kind of easy to step on each other's toes, but they had great separation with these headphones. And then lastly, the bass guitar had a really nice full sound to it, so it really kind of, there's sort of this grooviness to that song, just in the pattern that the bass is playing, and it just kind of creates a nice sense of power without being overpowering. It just, yeah, I don't know, it sounds full and foundational without really stepping on anything else's toes. This is beautiful. Gosh, this is one thing I love. I love the highs of a Grado headphone, and I know it's not always the same, but there's this character to it. It's hard to explain. I was just listening to the song Mercy Now by Mary Gauthier, and the attack of the acoustic, the highs of it, really kind of sounded a bit different than usual, because they really kind of like take the chunkiness out and more so lean toward the higher highs, which gives them kind of this really pretty specificity, but also a delicacy that's just beautiful for this song. And it still felt very harmonically complex, it just was shaped slightly differently. And I kind of found the same thing true with the highs of the vocals, which you could really hear the texture and the breath and the rasp of her voice, which gave it just this super emotionally charged feeling to the actual performance of her vocal, and it's so powerful and really, really nice. And then additionally, I thought that there was really good separation in the highs, especially with the strings and then like the highs of the voice and everything at the same time, and the guitars. There's great separation there, and yet they all kind of occupy somewhat of a similar space, but really they kind of, they all just feel very harmonically complex in their own kind of way. Their own timbres come through really clearly. The soundstage is so good on these also. There's really kind of a sense of expressiveness to it, and when I was just listening to the song Fever by Ray Charles featuring Natalie Cole, I really got that sense, particularly in the sense of width. Because basically the upright bass and the vocals are really strongly in the middle. The phantom center sense is really great. But then there are these embellishments in this song with these cymbals that kind of like hit all of a sudden, and those are panned out widely. And yeah, this sense of width, then it's like, whew, it really kind of can pull your attention in a proper way, and one that feels very intentional on the mixer's perspective. But then as for the sense of height, it also felt very obvious because there's definitely a sense of extension in both directions. And so the cymbals, for example, and the highs of the vocal kind of sit up here in space, but then the lows of the upright really feel solid down by the chest. And then lastly, as for the sense of depth, I think in this song in particular, the shape of the mid-range, kind of the presence of the voice, brings them a little bit closer in space. But that contrasts really well with then the darker kind of middle mid-range instruments, like in this song, the organ kind of sits further back in space. The key is actually, I think it's a Rhodes. The Rhodes really kind of sits further back in space, and that contrast is really strong and one that makes it feel deeper in that dimension. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to these more throughout the week, and I will meet you back at the Major Hi-Fi office for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the Grado RS2e are not overpowering, yet there's this kind of punchiness and spaciousness around them which really brings life and groove to kick drums, bass guitars, anything that's really kind of punching down there. And additionally, I did feel a little bit of a boost right around 40 hertz. And to me, what that did is just kind of create this extra sense of like oomph and energy and sense of extension from the lows that kind of just contributes to their overall feel. But in terms of the actual level of the low frequencies in the mix, it was very aesthetically pleasing, kind of sat a little bit bumped in the mix, but not overly so. And there really just remains a nice sense of spaciousness around all of the lows. Now, the mid-range of the RS2e, in my opinion, is kind of where the headphone shines, because there's just this really gorgeous sense of character and harmonic complexity to the mid-range that just makes the headphone shine. And there's still like this really great kind of complexity for electric guitars, pianos, strings, but meanwhile there's still sort of this like flavor to it that is really unique and something that Grado does extremely well. Now, as for the actual shape of the mid-range, there's a little bit of a bump around what sounded to me like 250 hertz, and as a result, kind of bass guitars, low organs, and cellos kind of feel a little bit fat down there, and they kind of have the sense of thickness. But that thickness is sort of balanced out by a bit of a cut around what sounded like 600 hertz. Now this kind of creates a nice sense of separation between instruments that are kind of purely in the mid-range and then the ones that are up in the high mids. As for the high mids, there's a boost around what sounded like 2K right at the bottom of the high mids, and then again at the top of the high mids around 5K. And what this does, in the middle part there's a little bit of a dip, and kind of what it does is it gives a little bit of a shape to the high mids, but it's very aesthetically pleasing because you get a sense of presence and stuff like that, as well as a sense of spaciousness. Now the high frequencies just exude this like absolutely gorgeous feeling of aesthetically pleasing character. And what I mean by that is that it's not a super realistic sounding high end, but it's one that will just give this like kind of shimmer to different instruments, percussion, cymbals, the higher harmonics of pianos and guitars and things like that. But as for the actual shape of it, the upper treble and the upper octave both have some emphasis there. And what it does is it creates this really beautiful sense of texture to everything, and it also just gives everything this sense of lift to it. Now, there was a pretty substantial cut right around 6K, but I really kind of like it because what it does is it kind of helps to marry this feeling of high detail. Like you can really hear the texture and the air of vocals and more texture, like cymbals and things like that. Yet, that cut at 6K kind of helps reduce a little bit of what would otherwise be kind of harsh sounding. So it kind of has this marriage of detail, and then smoothness. As for the soundstage of the RS2e, the feeling of width is expansive, and they're open back headphones, so you might sort of expect that, but I think that the frequency response shape, especially the way the high end is shaped and kind of like emphasizes the higher highs, it really contributes to the sense of width in a beautiful way. As for the height, I feel like because, again, of the shape of the frequency response, you get this extra energy down below in the subs mixed with this really beautiful kind of extension in the highs, and that creates this really tall image of the mix as a whole. And it also sort of contributes to the separation that you experience with these headphones. As for the depth of the headphones, they have a really nice sense of clarity and nuance, great separation. However, the actual response of it is a little bit skewed in terms of accuracy because of the way the frequency response is shaped. You'll get nice intimacy from vocals, for example, but that will have nice contrast from the other instruments set further back in space. Overall, the RS2e is a really gorgeous pair of headphones with a great sense of character and just aesthetically pleasing response in general. I particularly liked it for genres like with acoustic guitars and electric guitars too, actually, and vocals, because you get just this really beautiful harmonic complexity to it that really just kind of brings the song to life. Thank you so much for watching. For another perspective on the Grado RS2e, be sure to check out the link in the description box down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright everybody, I will see you next time. Bye.